January of this year, LinkedIn has made a number of changes. So for some of you that I've talked to and others, you've either found that exciting, frustrating, overwhelming, all kinds of adjectives that you could put with it. So the objective of Lucinda, Jackie, and I today is really to help you through some of that frustration as it relates to the new changes and so forth. The other thing is to talk about some aspects of LinkedIn that we've found over the years may be beneficial to you and your business and the development of your brand. So these are the things that you've seen in the handout. We'll try to cover them in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, there's a lot to LinkedIn. We could probably turn this into a week-long conference, which we won't certainly do in the time we have here this morning, but we'll hit the high points. So as we start, each of us is going to talk about one or two aspects of LinkedIn that we think are particularly important. And then I'm going to start. I'll turn it over to Lucinda, who'll turn it over to Jackie. Once we've done our couple-minute intro, then we're going to open it up to you guys to ask any questions that you have, and we'll take it from there. So in terms of what I'm going to talk about really relates to strategy, your profile, and your network. Now, I don't expect that you can totally read the two slides on the left, but suffice it to say that the one on the colored one on the upper left is one that Lucinda and I've used for years. I think she probably designed it, but in any event, we've used it over the years, and the whole point of it is to say that LinkedIn is a tremendous sales and marketing tool, but like any other sales and marketing tool, you need to have a strategy, and it's not a silver bullet all by itself. So for people who have gone out, created a profile, and expected within a week or two that you're going to have all kind of leads or connections or whatever, that probably isn't going to happen. So what we're hopeful of here today is for those of you that maybe haven't developed as much of a strategy in the past, that we can give you some guidance in what you might want to consider in that strategy and so forth, which really leads to the second slide on the lower left, which is there are a number of components to LinkedIn. It's complex. You don't just go out there and spend 5 minutes on it and totally understand LinkedIn. We even have surprises occasionally when we go out there and go to work with it. So part of understanding what you're going to put in your strategy is getting a sense of what those components are. So in all likelihood, it's going to be an evolution, that you may have some idea how you want to start with LinkedIn. You're going to learn more about it, and then from that you can really evolve to your strategy. So again, similar to any other sales and marketing tool, there's time involved, there's some commitment involved, and some stick-to-itness, if you will. That just trying it here and there sporadically probably won't get you the results that you want. So in terms of takeaways, a couple important things that I would say. First, about the profile, which you now know is designated as me when you go out to LinkedIn and is shown by your picture, is that first of all, have a professional picture. The LinkedIn statistics are something like 14 times more views of your profile if you have a good professional picture. And note the word good professional picture as opposed to some of the things that we've seen over the years. What goes along with the picture is the descriptive headline. It shouldn't be your title. It shouldn't, to say to somebody or have a title like mine, which is President of VPT Enterprise, tells them absolutely nothing. So it should be descriptive words of what you and your business are about, words that would be searchable for someone looking for someone with your skill set or a business with the things that does the type of things you do. The other thing that I would encourage is that all the sections, be it your upper area where your picture is, to your headline, to your summary, to your experience, to your education, and into your volunteering, be aligned. It should be like reading through a story and you see some level of, I'll call it continuity there, or a thread that takes you from one place to the other. That's what's going to keep the reader continuing to read through your profile to the point of presumably getting in touch with you. In terms of the network, building your network is key. use the word strategic there again, is think about who you're connecting to, the value you can be to them or what they may be to you, or mutually beneficial. And know that between the profile and the network, these are the foundation. That until you've really developed those two things, anything else you do on LinkedIn is going to have very limited success. What goes along with the profile and the network are into two categories they've now highlighted, which is messaging and notifications. Those are things to become familiar with because they can keep the momentum going with your connections, and they can be the places that either you can add value to them or them to you. So I leave you with these couple of thoughts as it relates to strategy, profile, and network. You may have some questions. Please hold those. And right now I'm going to turn it over to Lucinda.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, so how many of you are here to learn something about LinkedIn today? All right. So I get one of the exciting parts of LinkedIn. I mean, all of it's exciting, the things that you can use it for and the things that you can do with LinkedIn. Most of it is all about what you don't know. It's like as you get into LinkedIn and you explore, like Diana was saying, we uncover things new all the time. I mean, it's not uncommon for us to be working with a client and find something new. So with that, let me switch to searching, talk a little bit about that. I want to talk a little bit about company pages. How many of you guys have company pages in here? About half the room, pretty good, all right. And then obviously we're all out there to do what? Generate leads. How do we get leads? How do we target prospects? How do we get to them? So with that, let me switch to the next page. And you can connect with me on any of those links up there. My YouTube videos is the latest on my TV show, so that's brand new if you guys want to go there. Okay, so what's the power of retargeting? How do you get those lead generations? How much time are you spending to get your return on investment? Okay, notice I said how much time. How many of you guys are on premium? About a third of the room, okay? Because some people are throwing money out the door. Diana and I, we love to teach the free version of LinkedIn and what you can do, because what LinkedIn does is they tease you and they make you think you need to go on that paid version. I have so many clients that went on the paid version and then they figured out, I can do that for free, and they went back off. At one point in time, this is several years ago, LinkedIn used to tell you the size of your network. And so that's an old slide up there, but at one point in time I was at 871 connections. And what did that give me? Access to 13 million people. Now I'm at about 2,700 and have access to about 27 million. That number is not obvious out there like it used to be. And it used to be when people joined LinkedIn, it was all about building. How many is in your first tier? How many is in your first tier? Oh, let's compare, you know? That's really not what it's about. That number is important, but it's really not about your first tier number. It's really about who's in your network and who can you get to. So here's an example of just 3 things in LinkedIn. Within connecting to a member, then you can see their connections and see who they're connected to. So it's no longer about, I want to connect with, is it Lourdes? Lourdes, new name, Lourdes. All right, it's no longer about wanting to connect with Lourdes. It's connecting with her and seeing who's in her network that could be a benefit to me. It's about working those connections and working that network. And so you see how members are in companies, and then within the company you can see the employees. And what's more valuable than even seeing the current employees? The past employees, because sometimes they tell you more than what a current company does, or current employee does. And then you've got companies showcasing groups. How many of you guys in your company, you showcase other groups? That's a way to work through. Likewise, within the group, you can direct traffic to companies. As you look at groups, you've got groups connected to other groups. These are all working those interactions. So it's no longer about just connecting with one person, it's working the network. So many people only connect with that one person. and they don't get into the network processing. And that's where the value is. So, with that, today I want to talk a little bit about, there's at least 5 different areas within LinkedIn. How many of you guys are still on the free? Good. All right. We know about half is on one of the premiums. There's Business Premium, there's Sales Navigator. How many of you guys are on Sales Navigator? 2, 3, 4. All right. How many are you on Business Premium? Rumor has it that's going away, so you're grandfathered right now. Hang on to it. Okay. And then, how many of you are job seekers in here today? About 10? Okay, good. And are you guys on the job seeker solution? No? You might want to check that out then for the things that you can search on. Okay, with that, how many of you guys have been working through the new company page? I see a lot of people going, yeah. There is a lot that you can learn on the company page. Insights are new, and you can go in and see what the company's doing, especially if you're a job seeker. You can go in and see what the changes are that's coming. If you're in sales and business development, like we all are, or we're in career development, you can go in and see what the biggest changes are in the companies. And oftentimes that will lead you to a contact within a company to get in, to lead you to another contact to get to the right decision maker. And making those dots connect is what it's all about. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jackie.
Thank you. Great tips. So I'm with a digital marketing agency, so we're going to be talking about doing some ads. We probably get 20 to 30 resumes a week, and so also some of the things that I do as an employer when I get those resumes, first things I do, so some tips on that kind of information. LinkedIn has a thing called sophisticated sessions, so if you go out there and do a search on sophisticated sessions, they have a lot of tips for when you're running ads, and some of the big ones that I think everyone gets super excited about when it comes to doing an ad in LinkedIn is how specific you can get. You can say, I want people in Dallas with the title of this that are this, and you get this really great niche audience, and you think this is going to be fantastic. What's that?
And then they won't let you send it to them.
And then they won't let you send it to them. So one of the things that you'll see from the sophisticated sessions and through here on one of the do's and don'ts is aim when you're looking at sponsored content. I know everyone wants to start with a super close niche. Don't do it. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be as effective. You want to start with a group that's about 300,000 people, and then hit that, and then re-engage with the people that are engaging with your content. So when you're taking people from an ad or any type of sponsored content, you want to take them to a landing page, and then you can do remarketing to them inside of Facebook and remarket to them inside of Google AdWords and those types of things. And so you can really drive your cost per click down. Another thing that's really cool that you can do, I have some scheduled tweets that are supposed to be going out, but I saw that the images aren't working, so they probably don't make sense if you're seeing them. But one thing that's really great inside of LinkedIn that you can do is kind of a power tip is to export all of your connections. So all the connections that Lucinda is talking about going out and making, export all those connections. You get it in a CSV file, and then upload that into your Facebook or your Google AdWords, and you can use that to create custom audiences and really hone in and spend a lot less money on any of the ad campaigns that you're currently running. Of course, some of the standard stuff, A/B test your campaigns, make sure you've got things that are useful and relevant to the people. So one of the extra things that they say in the sophisticated sessions, top 5 reasons for content engagement. The top 2 are that it's educational and informative, and that it's relevant to me. So an example of something that we do is we'll go out and create a news story around the specific industry that we're working with. So if it's restaurants or something, we may come up with a story that talks about using like a Google survey, where we create our own data or use public data to come up and talk about what people are doing in restaurants, what are the trends or whatever that's going on in the restaurant space, and then we'll put that information out as sponsored content to restaurant owners, and they're a lot more likely to look at that and go, oh, what are the trends? What's going on? I want to know, I want to be there, I don't want to miss the boat, so that we can get them to the page and then continue to market to them. And then real quickly, and then we'll, I think, move over into questions, tips for getting hired. So when I receive a resume, these are things that I immediately look for when I go to anyone's LinkedIn profile. As Diane already said, make sure you have a complete and updated profile and that you have a profile picture. People do business with people, and I know some people, I guess they don't want their photo up there because maybe they don't like the way they look or whatever. But I don't like the way your little avatar looks either, right? So let's do business with people. So put your photo out there. You're not doing yourself a favor at all. Bye.
One thing, at least this is what a lot of people I know think of, if you don't have a picture up there, or if you have a really strange picture like of your dog or something like that, is what are you trying to hide?
Right.
Are you a hacker? You just don't know what you're doing? Or, what's the problem?
Exactly. I mean, it sends off so many negative signals, or the ones where you have you and one other person. Well, which one are you? Obviously, make sure you do that. Add projects and portfolios to that as well. So it's a little bit more specific because we're obviously in the digital marketing. I want to see the type of work they've done, as well as joining relevant groups. It's something that's hugely important to me. So if I'm going to be hiring someone that does social media or email marketing or SEO, I want to see that they're participating in the groups that Lucinda was just talking about. If they're not active in those groups, they're not current, and I'm not going to hire them. So make sure you're getting active and sharing content, making connections, and recommendations. For the love of God, go get recommendations from your mom, your sister, whatever it is, people that you've worked with. If you've had a job, make sure you go get a recommendation. Make it a point. Get out there this week, and I challenge you, go out there and get 2 or 3 recommendations, and then see what starts happening to your LinkedIn profile. See what starts happening when you're going there. Grant?
On the recommendations, little technique is to write it yourself.
Yep. Exactly. So what Grant was just saying is a great technique for getting those recommendations is to write it yourself and say, hey, I worked with you before, here's something that I would, if you would recommend me, here's a sample of what you could do, change it, make it your own. But that way they don't have to take the time to actually do that. Another tip to getting them is actually giving them. All right, so go out there and give them, and then the people are going to say, oh, I should recommend him back. So those will be some tips, and the Sophisticated Sessions has a lot of PDFs and a lot of resources that I'm afraid probably aren't going out properly right now. So if you're interested in those, just hit me up on Twitter. I'm Atomic Jackie, so at Atomic Jackie, and I'll gladly send those over to you, or you can shoot me an email. My email address is jackie@atomicdc.com. So I think now we open up.
Right. So at this point, we can turn the slide projector off. Lucinda and Jackie are going to move up here to the front table. And so as you've noticed, we've kind of covered everything from soup to nuts as it relates to LinkedIn. So what I would ask is, as you phrase your question, and Kelly's going to come around with the microphone so that we can clearly hear the question, but as you would ask the question to be as concise as possible, and then who you would like to direct it to, or just say that it's an open question to anybody on the panel. Okay? Martha.
If you can make the comment.
Wait just a minute.
Kelly. I don't need a microphone.
If you can just address the fact of how you ask someone to connect with you, because I know that's a pain point to me, that somebody I have no idea who they are will say, I just want to be part of your LinkedIn, period. Instead of saying, this is who I am, this is how I got your name, and this is why I'd like to connect.
Well, and I'll actually jump in on that one. One of the recent changes that LinkedIn has made has quite frankly made it very nice to give that personalized message either on sending the invitation or replying after you have accepted one. So now as you hit the connect button, it pops up a window that does have a default in it, so you could be lazy and use the default, but it's also very easy to go in and customize the message. As Martha said, here's where we met, here's why I'd like to connect. Oh, by the way, here's my phone number and email address if you'd like to get in touch with me, making it as easy as possible. So.
I was going to just add to that. One of the new features in 2017 is you now can like Diana said, put in your email address. You can, and you've always been able to put in your phone number, but you can also add your website, which is nice, and attach a picture, which I usually attach my business card.
Is that when you're asking for the request or once you're already established?
It's now when you're actually asking
Right.
to be connected.
And of course, after.
Another tool that can kind of help you grow your network a little bit, this is one of those little growth hack type things, is a tool called Social Lead Machine. So you can actually tie that into your Chrome browser, and what that will do is automatic. You can set up a saved search to say I'm looking for CEOs in the healthcare space that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or whatever it is, and again create a real big network. And it will automatically go and visit those profiles, and then those people get this notification that, oh, Jackie has visited your profile, and it's an awareness type of thing. So then when you do go in for the initial request, they see that. A lot of times people start looking at you as well. So again, getting back to that description up at the top, you got to be careful with that. So don't let it go wild and crazy, because it can, and it kind of would violate the terms. So LinkedIn, if you're listening, I don't recommend it. I'm just saying it's a tool that's out there.
What was the name of that tool again?
Okay, hang on. I know we've got a lot of questions, but we do want to make sure we can hear the questions. So George, I think you have the microphone.
Social Lead Machine was the tool.
Social Lead Machine. When we're talking about asking for connections, I know it's changed on the desktop version and been greatly enhanced. It's always been different on the mobile version.
Yeah.
So has the mobile version changed also, and are there significant differences still between the desktop and the mobile?
No, the mobile version hasn't changed, and there are still differences. It's getting closer, but there are still differences, which is why I encourage, and I suspect Jackie and Lucinda will say the same thing, that to really get yourself familiar and utilizing LinkedIn, use the desktop version, and only go to the mobile if you just have a few minutes somewhere and you want to catch up on group information or something like that.
The mobile has about 35% of the functionality of the desktop. And yes, this version is closer to looking mobile. That's why we're kind of all lost in the navigation menus now. They've kind of changed around, and they went button style instead of menu drop-down style. But overall, I only use the mobile primarily to look up things. I don't initiate any invitations on mobile. That's a hazard. I use the desktop because you can use Word. You can type everything, find your grammar mistakes and typos and everything else, and see it. Versus on a smartphone, guess what's going to happen?
I don't use
Words may be substituted that you didn't want.
Exactly. Questions over here.
Tracy's got a question back.
And then I can get up to you.
Yeah.
So this kind of goes back to, Jackie, what you were talking about, looking on the leads. I know on the premium, you used to be able to take a look at who was looking at your profile. And now I have the free, so I can only see one person. Is there a way to do that so that I can check and see who looks at my profile? Because it helps when I'm trying to connect with someone if they actually looked and tried to find out who I was.
I'm on the paid side. I'm not sure. I don't. You guys on the free side?
I'm still on the free, and I get to see up to 5 people, but my thought is I have so many connections and so many people viewing that even if I was on the paid, I'm not sure it would matter. Now, if I was a job seeker, guess what? I would pay. I'd want to see all of those looking at me. So I think it's personal preference.
I would add that you're grandfathered in with the 5, which is that anybody who comes in new now only gets to see one. That's what part of the difference is. And that's what has happened a lot with LinkedIn over the years, is that as they've made some of these huge changes, those of us that were using something, let's say, called specialties years ago, it's now still included in our summaries. But for anybody that comes in now, there's no such thing as specialty. So that's why it's a little confusing sometimes when you either look at a profile or the way we might answer the question too. So,
Do you have any insight, and I think this is for Jackie, but if you guys have any, regarding the sponsored content versus text ads?
We use sponsored content a lot more than text ads, as it does show up in the feed. And again, we're trying to create new relevant content to them, so our sponsored content is never an ad for the company or our company. It's always something very directly related to them. And we've just had a lot more success with that because people actually see it. The text ads are kind of more of an impression thing. That's kind of how I use them mostly. So typically the sponsored.
That was what I suspected. I just want to make sure.
Okay, we got a couple up front, and then I'm gonna work my way back.
Okay, well, I'm not going to ask the question I've asked you 3 times already, Lisa. I wanted to know what they were doing now because Pulse has gone bye-bye to develop thought leadership for their customers. But my burning question is, 2 months ago, LinkedIn started playing around with their analytics platform on company, and they were actually starting to do some nice graphs and stuff that was actionable, and then they pulled back, and now it's the same old horrible stuff that's not downloadable. Have you got any, flares that have come up about when the analytics is going to become something that we can actually use rather than copy and paste and figure it out on our own? It's horrible.
I feel your empathy. I don't have any insights on that. Sometimes I hear rumors that go around. I participate in forums, but that company analytics, no wonder Facebook's taken off. I mean, LinkedIn hasn't caught on yet. However, since Microsoft bought LinkedIn, and Microsoft's pretty good with metrics and analytics and all, maybe there's hope in 2018.
Jackie, you were talking about getting active in groups. So if I have a client, I'm trying to advise them on, okay, get involved in groups, get active. Can you tell me more? What does that mean? What do they do? How often? What do they share?
Right. So I'll just break it down for me personally how I do that. Right. So as I'll go out and join a group and participate as me, as Jackie, out inside of that group. So when you start looking at different companies and how are you going to set it up, you've got to look at it from an individual person. So pick a figurehead, or if it's the CEO or this, whoever it makes sense to be inside of that group. Participate in that group, answer questions, post questions, share resources that you found, kind of be a content curator, if you will. It's just something people will start to see you. I think I heard someone say thought leadership as you go out and participate in those groups. So search the groups, find them. For me, be SEO, people are interested in that or whatever, and go out and participate in that way. That's usually what I'm doing, is content curating, answering questions, and asking.
So whether you're looking for a job or you're looking to get a client, you're going ahead and you're finding people on LinkedIn, you're linking in, you're making a request. These are typically unsolicited requests for a link. What are some tips or suggestions that you can give to get someone's attention to actually respond? I mean, we've all gotten unsolicited sales requests before, or unsolicited requests to help someone with a job. We've seen all kinds of flavors. What are things that you suggest that would get someone to react positively with that message? What are some messaging tips you have?
Let me take this one. All right. There's several different techniques, and it sort of depends on the product or service that you sell also. But I do a lot of work not only with LinkedIn, but with Sandler. And Sandler Sales is the #1 sales, if you will, in the world, and them and LinkedIn work together. In fact, they've written books together. One of the things is to ask a question and put the fear in them that they don't know, and then that makes them think they need your service, whether it be retirement planning questions, or how do you know when you're going to run out of money, or something that grabs their attention and makes them think about it, rather than the old-fashioned sell, push, sell, push, sell, push. I'm sure they're going to call me back, or I'm sure they're going to accept, right? Well, on LinkedIn, it's how do you turn it into something crystal clear and concise, and then you always make it easy for them by putting your contact information at the bottom, and now you can put your link to your website. So invite them to go get a free assessment, get a free checklist. People love things free, and so that's a way to attract them over to whether it be your website, your blog, or whatever else Jackie will throw into the mix for the agencies. Okay?
And what I would add to that is probably it's not going to be immediate. So think of it as other lead generation, which there's going to be some time interval involved. There's probably going to be more than just one exchange to get some action to happen. So what's worked successfully for several of my clients is that they'll go out and they'll target titles of people in companies that they want to be affiliated with and aren't necessarily today. They connect with the individual with those titles, and then it's a more subtle approach of, you know, I work with ABC company, we're in the same industry, I'd like to connect with you, and then maybe a short time later, maybe another email that goes back that says, oh, by the way, we have a new product or new feature, go look at it at the website, but a little bit more educational, informative, but definitely takes a longer period of time.
And Diana almost said it. If you're trying to get into a company, you start working your way in. And so let's say you send out invites to the first 5 people, and then to the next 10. And you're, depending on what level you're trying to go for, you want to start building out that network of who do they know. Like I mentioned earlier in the kickoff, that as you infiltrate, and then if they look you up and they say, oh wow, look at all they're connected to at Frito-Lay. Oh, wow, I need to get connected to them, I guess. So they're more likely to accept if they see a higher volume.
And then from a hack perspective, a couple things here. I like hacks, sorry. A couple things here. The one thing that I feel like turns most people off from a connection is because they're afraid they're about to get sold. The second I say yes, you're going to hit me with a message and you're going to say, I've got this great solution for you. So my recommendation would be take the word business development, sales, anything like that out of your title and your job description, because I've got hundreds, I mean literally hundreds, because there's so many solutions for agencies and everything that all of us do. You know, oh, we've got this great thing. Not connecting. I won't connect with them unless I know them and met them at something like that. So if I see biz dev or sales, it's a much harder road to plow. The other thing I would say, getting back on the hack side of things, there's a tool called hunter.io, and that allows you, when you're on LinkedIn, to most likely get that person's email address. So again, getting back to using and getting yourself out as a thought leader or having them familiar with your company or you, is go out and develop that list. So you can go through there and click, it just adds right into the LinkedIn interface. You can click, it says show email address, and you get the email address with the probability of if it's going to be the right one or not, and hunter.io. And so when you go out there and do that, you can create a list off of that, and then again, getting back to Facebook and LinkedIn and everything else, use that email list to create a custom audience and then advertise to those people, and so you've got some familiarity in front of them as well.
Next question, I think the mic's still in the back, so we'll take that and then we'll move the mic back toward the front here.
All right, 25 words or less. Is Sales Navigator good or bad or indifferent?
I'll take that one.
She's not on it.
Yeah, I am not on it.
I think we know her answer.
I have clients on it, so let me just say that. It all depends on, first of all, your business strategy, and then how that translates into your social media strategy that translates into your LinkedIn. So if you have a business and your transaction value is, let's say, just a $100 item, well, what's the ROI if I'm trying to sell a $100 item versus I'm paying $100 and something a month for Sales Navigator? You gotta have a better break even than that. Now, if I am in consulting business and I'm selling a $400,000 item, guess what? I'm gonna be on Sales Navigator because I've got to get to those people. So each person needs to evaluate their situation and when it makes sense. There's so many benefits in Sales Navigator, but at the same time, there's so many different ways to do it for free. So if I were to say, are you a telemarketer? Telemarketers, you guys need to be on Sales Navigator because you have a high volume of cold calls. How many do cold calls? Does anybody like them? There was one hand. Oh my goodness, you're hired. You can work for me. If you are in a business development role where you are making, say, 25 to 100 calls a day, you're going to hit all kinds of limits, and then you're going to be, I call it penalized on LinkedIn, where you ran out of searches. That's the free part. And that's when those people need to move over to Sales Navigator. There are other benefits on Sales Navigator. I won't say that they're worth the equivalent of a CRM. I would have a real CRM to hook up to it, like Salesforce or something like that. Now, having said all that, how many of you guys have tried the 30-day trial? Yeah, how about that? And you get all excited and you get things set up in accounts and you get things set up in leads, and it's telling you all these different things, suggesting to you, oh, here's where they've changed roles, here's where news is coming in about them. Well, guess what? At the end of the trial, and when you go and you quit paying, they take all that knowledge away from you. They wipe out your inbox. So be careful before saying yes, even to the trial, because you can get hurt. Sorry, that was longer than 60 seconds. Jim.
I kind of have
Actually, I'm sorry, I just want to add one thing about Sales Navigator. What I would say is if you're going to consider it, then as Lucinda said, the 30-day trial is appropriate. Just be cautionary of the things she mentioned. But more importantly, think about what your sales process is today and how you target your potential clients. Because if you can't do a good job of describing who you're trying to target, then Sales Navigator's Lead Builder isn't going to be that magic bullet for you. You really need to understand how you're targeting, who you're targeting. You know, is it a company of 50 to 200 employees? Is it a Fortune 5,000? Do you want to be right here within Dallas? Do you want to be global? But know those answers, because if you don't, then again, as I said, Sales Navigator isn't going to be all that helpful to you.
That's real good. The other thing is even with Sales Navigator, it's got all these filters, and you can dive into how many employees and industries, just like Diana says. The one thing it does not have that my clients have often asked, what do I do, is it doesn't have the revenue anymore. So you don't know what size of company. You know they may have 500 employees, but you don't know if they're a $10 million company or a $100 million company. And so I still use another tool to support me in that effort so that I match the exports of, of what I'm trying to go after from both Navigator or the free version of LinkedIn to Sales Genie, which is by Info Group. And it's got like 30-some different databases that feed it, like Dun & Bradstreet and all that. And so it's got like 168 fields in it telling you information about the size, expected expenditures of the companies. It's got up to 30 executives with their phone numbers. And if you want to pay more, you can also get their emails. And when you're on the screen, it has indicators next to their names. If this CEO is on LinkedIn, there's a little LinkedIn icon, so you can click on it and go straight to their profile and invite them.
Oh, it's now finally your turn.
2 questions at this point. So one's about profile pictures and the other is about groups. So I'm not sure, do you want them both at the same time?
Start with the profile picture.
Okay. So profile picture, I know it needs to be good and professional, but by professional, does that mean that it has to be essentially a school picture, you know, where
I
it's behind
recommend
the
glamour
back?
shots.
Right. You know, does it need to be something along those lines behind a beige wall or in front of a beige wall, or can it be something from your personal life as long as it had your face clearly, you're smiling, you know, like, can it be from a personal?
Well, just a minute, Wynn, we'll let you respond in the back to the question, but a couple of things I would say, which is true of a lot of LinkedIn, quite frankly, is how you choose to use it at the end of the day is still a personal preference. That we may give you things that we do that are important to us. My response would be, I think it needs to be a picture that people want to look at, so it's not so rigid that, you know, you're looking unfriendly or whatever. I would say, though, that if you have dark hair, a lighter background is better, or something like that, so that the picture pops out at people and that it's not. Now, Kelly, can you get the microphone to Win, and we'll let him answer from a
She's got one more question.
photographer's perspective. I'll give her one.
Okay.
He's in the back. Why don't we just judge it in next week's meeting?
Yeah, we need you to send a link to your LinkedIn profile, and we'll create a poll.
I would suggest to show your personality. Not your high school personality, but the one you have today. It doesn't have to be totally professional in a studio, but please don't take a picture and cut out your ex-fiance and put your picture there. You don't have to hire a professional photographer. It just has to be a pleasant portrait that you think your friends want to look at.
But if you need one.
If you need one, there's a couple of us in the room that can all do a good job, but it does have to be shot with the drone. So
And zoom in.
Okay, when we talked about groups, you had mentioned make sure that the correct person of your company is joining that group as an individual, right?
Right.
So how do you do that if, say I have 3 people in my company who would be good people to be in the groups? So I wouldn't necessarily have control of all 3 of our personal accounts, right? So
this is something we come across all the time. We request access.
okay.
Every one of my employees has my login information, so if there's anything weird out there, it wasn't me. But they all have my login information to my LinkedIn account, and they go out and post as me frequently.
So that kind of couples up though, because now what if you have somebody offering you a job via your messaging on LinkedIn, and so now your boss just saw it, you know?
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Happens. That is.
I was also going to respond to that. You have to make sure that if you've got all 3 of you in the same group, that you're using different voices, because people will figure it out that it's, you know, one person, you know, blasting for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, you know, just keep in mind that everybody's a brand, and each brand has to have a separate voice.
I actually intercepted a company that had probably 7 or 8 of the same employees or different employees, but from the same company. And you could tell somebody just taught them Hootsuite, because they were out there, and it was actually part of our group too that they're posting in. So 3 different people would post that same content like an hour or a day apart. And I sought them all out one at a time, and I pulled them into a message queue and said, you guys need to go look in the group before you post, because somebody else has already posted. That same content was posted 7 times in a row over the last week. So if you are in something like that with multiple people, decide who's taking the primary role and who's doing the secondary, who's doing the generic content. Have your strategy figured out.
Okay, who has the microphone?
Here. So I want to go back to the portfolio on the LinkedIn. So how big and where would you post that? Like, I have 3 things under summary and 3 things under my current job, but I'm just wondering, do you look for a much bigger portfolio? Because to me that's sort of a sampling to get them to contact me, but some people do actually want to see your portfolio posted, so I'm just wondering.
When I'm looking, I look for quality over quantity, but I want to see, like, I don't want to see just one real nice piece. I want to see at least a couple. So maybe, like, if you've got a really nice piece and then a whole bunch that aren't fantastic, maybe pick 1 or 2 just to put it on there, because that also shows some progress. When we're hiring designers and those types of things, I can see where they started and where they got to, so it shows that they have some progress. So, but I wouldn't, you know, if I have a whole bunch of stuff that's not really great, I wouldn't post all that.
Sorry. I have 20 years, so I have a lot of examples, but like, I have 1 magazine example, 1 script example, 1 speech example. You know what I mean? So is that
that's
good?
good. Yeah.
And then is it under summary or under your current job, or is there another section I don't even know where it is?
Well, you actually have options. But yes, multiple options. So there's an extra section out there called publications, and so it's good to go and put something there. Now, it won't hyperlink over to an example, but at least you could put that, I'll call it the URL in there so that someone can go there. It just won't automatically take them there. The other place would be projects, which is good because now that starts to differentiate a little bit more from experience and so forth. And those would be the two primary ones I would think of in terms of extra sections.
The other place I would send them, I don't know if you've got things out in existing galleries or not, but up in your contact information, there's three different places where you, or three places to put a website URL. And you can customize that and say, come see my gallery, and then put that URL behind it, and that'll take them out to wherever your gallery is. I mean, I have also used Dropbox in the public version so that I can send them out, and that way you can show them a variety of different things versus, you know, pictures out on Flickr or something like that. If your part of your gallery is video, then either Vimeo or YouTube is a great place to put your channel out there. And there's nothing wrong now that since June 8th's agreement came out with LinkedIn, there's nothing wrong with in your summary inviting them to come visit and put the URL there. I would shorten it down to a bit.ly byte so that you don't have that long ugly thing out there. Okay?
And make sure it has a UTM code as well so you can track it Google Analytics.
Yeah,
That's the
okay.
nerd in me coming
Okay, who has the mic back here?
I do. And I'd like to, two things. One, I want some tricks for getting around that ceiling on the free version of how many searches. And then, and I have found a couple, but I want to know if anybody else has any. And then requesting connections. I've noticed that it'll pop back up for you when you've got a pending invitation for somebody. They'll suggest them again. And I want to know, is that irritating to get a request again? Because I do that.
Well, I'm not sure. Let me
Yeah,
restate
we'll send it again.
what I heard. So first of all, LinkedIn will automatically, if you're sending me the invitation, I get the original invitation, and then LinkedIn will automatically remind me twice that you have sent me an invitation. So if I'm understanding your question, above and beyond that, you're sending another?
I'm getting a suggestion that I should connect with you after I've already sent it. And so if I go to your profile, I can see it's pending. But if I do it from the suggestion window where I want to connect and then it asks if I want to send a message, it looks as though it's giving me the opportunity to send it all over again, which I'm for if you need another prompting. But I'm wondering, is it actually doing that or is it wasting my time?
It's not only wasting your time, but if you fall for it when it's suggested it again, it's wasting an invitation. And you only get, in a lifetime on LinkedIn, you only get a maximum of 3,000.
What?
So, yes, so if you're prompted to go send an invite to Jackie again, let's say it's the third time,
Freaking say yes.
you have just wasted an extra 2 invitations. The first one's still good for him, but don't be wasting them. So, and is there a way to prevent that? Not that I know of. Call Jackie and say, accept it, so instead of testing.
I'll accept her friend.
The other thing, what I would add though about when it does bring up the suggested people to connect with is don't automatically think that you have to do that. Some people do. Seems pretty basic, but you don't. The second thing though is, again, think about it strategically. You know, can you bring value to that person, or can they bring value to you? Or maybe it's an old colleague that you want to catch up with for some reason, as simple as that. But just think about it before you actually do it. You want your connections to be valuable to you and you to them.
And I would suggest N+1. And what's that mean? Not only that first person that you're looking at, but look at their network. What's the value of that network they bring? And Melanie, I think you had a second question in there.
I just wanted hacks for how to get around that ceiling of searches that you have monthly when you're on the free version.
Oh, the maximum?
Yeah.
There's no way to get around the maximum quantity of searches you have per month.
Okay.
But you need, well, actually, let me take that back. All right, here's a cheat sheet for you. Okay, now, Most people are inside of LinkedIn. Here we go. Recorded, huh? Most people are inside of LinkedIn doing their searches. Every time you hit that search button, it's taking, it's decrementing your count, your monthly allotment. If you want to be conservative, go outside of LinkedIn, have another tab open, be in Google, put that person's name in there. So I'm going to put in Diana Getz, I'm going to put comma, DFW, and I'm going to hit enter from Google. And because Diana's got a robust profile, she's going to pop to the top, and I click on it from the outside of LinkedIn, go straight to her. That doesn't take away from my monthly allotment. How's that for a good cheat sheet?
Well, that's what I do. I was wondering if there's anything else outside that, but that is gold.
That's gold, yes. And I use Google as an example. It works with any search engine. Okay.
Back to the question about projects and your portfolios. I'm assuming it works the same for like linking back to your blogs, right? So is that, if you have a blog and it's really more of a URL, where's the best place to put that information?
Well, that's what Lucinda talked about, which is as you go to your profile, on the upper right, there's a section that's called contact information.
Okay.
And within that section, you can put in 3 URLs. It's called websites, but it can be 3 URLs. So back to the point, it can be to a website, it could be a blog, to a video, and then when you go in there, you can customize how you describe it. So don't choose the drop down of company website. Choose, this is, so-and-so company website or so-and-so blog, that sort of thing. The other thing I would say about that section is you can also put in a phone number and an email address, and if you want a physical address. Take advantage of putting all that information out there. Again, it goes back to the people that are reading your profile may not know you. Most of them probably won't. So if there's any interest on their part of contacting you, just make it as easy as possible for them.
Let me just add one more thing here. This is something I just learned in the last 4 or 5 days even. For those of you that have been in either of Diana or I's training classes, we teach you to fill out that contact area and things that you wouldn't necessarily think to put in there. We add extra ideas in there for you. Obviously, I've had mine in there forever. Well, guess what? The surprise was, with this conversion to the 2017 version, my address got wiped out. It was completely blank. I'm like, it's been in there since the beginning of time. And what was the other? Oh, my language. How many of you guys have a foreign language in there? Go check it. My language was still there, but when I pulled down the drop box where it's supposed to say intermediate, or at least that's what I chose, it was blanked out. So I took a mental note this week that this weekend I'm going to go through all 60 fields of my LinkedIn profile and double check to see if everything moved over like it's supposed to. Because there's 2 examples where it didn't.
One other thing on your blog question specifically. So if I was hearing you right, I wasn't sure, but obviously linking to your blog as I just suggested, but if you have a specific blog that you've written and you want add that as a thing you're sharing, obviously on the feed. So I just want to make sure we talk about that.
Excellent point.
Wait, is there a way to add that to your profile? I'm sorry, Jeff.
Well, take it, because it's continuity here. But no, if you go into your homepage and you want to do an update, then that's where you would take the information that she's put in the blog and post it out as an update. Okay, who has the microphone?
Hi. A cautionary tale, kind of jarringly changing the subject, is make sure that you have social media policies for employees and contractors that you work with, so if they start a page on your behalf and manage it, that it's very clear that it's the company's page, that's your page to keep. We had a problem with the AMA chapter here that a past president years ago started our LinkedIn group, and he rolled off the board, no longer a member, but he wouldn't give us ownership of it. And every president for 10 years would email him, or 6 years, and say, hey, can we have it? And he'd always go, yeah, sure. And then when I get back to the office, and he'd never do it. And literally for 6 years, and finally I sent him a letter again, and he wouldn't reply. So I reached out to LinkedIn. They're no help at all. And I did screen captures. If he's no longer a member, not involved in the chapter, we have 11,000 followers, so we weren't going to give up the group. And finally, it literally took writing a letter with a lawyer and copying in the CEO of AMA National just to get his attention. And finally, begrudgingly, after 6, 7 years, he finally gave it up. And they're no help at all. So, you know, we couldn't go in and rebrand it without having ownership to the page. So it was.
Well, one more thing. That's also true for company pages. When you set up a company page, make sure that it's not just by one person. Make sure you've got multiple on there. I had a client come to me, and the original person that set it up was dead. They were dead, but they still had their individual profile on LinkedIn. And just like Tom Dennis just said to you guys about the groups, it took an act of Congress to get that thing turned over. And more than, I don't know, probably 8 months, 10 months. And we had to go back and actually prove that the person was dead first before we could get the company page moved over.
Right, which kind of goes back to where we were in the beginning, which is as you move into LinkedIn is really thinking about what your strategy is going to be, and that sometimes just jumping in and filling out something real quick isn't going to be the right solution. We're almost out of time, so we'll take 2 more questions.
Hi. When I created my profile, it did not require me to put the date of my college graduation, and it keeps asking me to fill that in, and I'm wondering if I should leave it blank.
Well, this is one of those that it's your personal preference. As long as you don't fill it in, it will continue to ask you the question, okay? If it's important to you to leave it out, then don't put it in there. For a lot of us, quite honestly, you can probably look at my picture or look at me and figure out what the date was anyway, so it's just easier for me to put the date in there and then that question doesn't pop up. What was the other question? Who has the microphone? Okay.
Hi, so to your point, Jackie, I'm of the mind of I don't want to be marketed to all the time, and I feel like as someone who pays the premium, every other swipe I'm seeing a promoted post. So I'm wondering, is there a way to say, hey LinkedIn, I pay this premium amount, is there a way for you to turn down the advertising just a notch?
I hope not.
Okay, there's one person who's had her hand up forever. Could you bring the microphone right over here, please, to Joan? And then this will be our final question. We will talk about other stuff in a minute.
This is probably directed to Jackie, but I'll not. Welcome. On third-party Buffer and Hootsuite, as you were talking about, they recently, LinkedIn, I got a notification that you can no longer post from those to groups. So is there a way to get around that now? Is there anything going to change? And why? Does anyone know?
Yeah, so for that, a lot of that stuff, our team is doing it. We use Sprout Social, and so honestly, I don't know the answer to that question, because when I use LinkedIn, I'm native in the desktop version, so I'm not sure what I just heard Hootsuite will, or HubSpot.
I used to use, well, let me back up. I use Hootsuite a lot, but I only use it for status updates on LinkedIn. Even in groups, it didn't post right. So I had tried it, it failed, I backed out. So in groups, I do my own, because you want to separate out the subject heading from the details and get the picture to pop up. And that didn't always work. So
Buffer worked great. It's no longer working.
Yeah, and so Hootsuite's not an option either. It sounds like HubSpot's the answer.
HubSpot will still let you do it.
Okay.
Okay, by a show of hands, could I see those that feel like you've learned something today that you didn't know before you walked in the door? Terrific. Okay, so with that, we are going to wrap up today's social media breakfast. We will be in the back of the room available if you have more questions.